Hey fellow backyard boyers, Nick here. For a long time, a lot of people have asked me if I had something against using fiberglass rods in a PVC pipe bow. And the answer is no, I have nothing against it. And when used properly, fiberglass rods can do a lot to a PVC pipe bow. Now just to stress that point, today I'm going to be making a simple, no heat PVC pipe bow. But it makes use of fiberglass rods to evenly distribute stress, eliminating the sharp bend in the handle that most simple PVC pipe bows without any heating or bending or flattening usually have, and distributing the stress evenly over the limbs. And you can see it's got a nice tiller to it. It's also got a decent amount of speed and very solid performance. One of the cool things about this bow is it's also very fast to make and pretty inexpensive, if I do say so myself. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to need is a 5-foot length of 3/4 inch Schedule 40 pipe. I'm using white pipe. This will give you a little more performance than gray pipe. Expect the weight and the speed to go down a little bit if you use gray Schedule 40. What I've done is I've marked the very center, and this is just so I know where to grip the bow. You're going to need 2 fiberglass rods. These are 5/16 inch thick fiberglass rods. I picked these up from Home Depot. They were $2 a piece. Now what you want to do here is on one of your rods you want to mark 1 foot, and then mark the center of that, and then mark the center of the remaining 3-foot piece. On your other piece you want to mark at 18 inches, mark the center of that at 9 inches, and then you want to take your 30-inch piece that's remaining and mark 15 inches in the middle. On top of that, you're going to need some duct tape. Any kind of tape will work for this. You don't need duct tape, anything. As long as it's tape and it'll hold stuff together, it'll work. And then finally, if you don't have any tools to cut fiberglass rods or work with PVC, I suggest you get a tile saw blade. This is also called a rod saw or a carbide saw blade. This is made to fit in a hacksaw handle, but you don't need the hacksaw to make this work. So now that you've got all of your materials, oh, one thing I forgot to mention, I'm going to be using some paracord for the string. This is not nylon paracord, this is poly paracord. Home Depot has been selling it a lot. It's a poly blend. It doesn't stretch nearly as much as regular 550 cord does. And while not as strong in the long run, this stuff works really well for makeshift strings. Here it is. You're going to need some of this. Alright, let's get started. Alright, first thing we're going to do is make our cuts. We need to make 2 cuts, one here and one here. So the simplest way to do this with the tile saw is you got to think of the tile saw as more of a carbide file than an actual saw blade. It doesn't really cut soft things like your finger, but when put up against things like glass, tile, rock, concrete, it cuts really well. So you want to make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. If not, be sure to wear a mask. This stuff is itchy, and it's basically silica dust, so that's never good to breathe in for prolonged periods. What you want to do is just hold the saw blade, and it's solid enough on its own, and just run it along. So I'm turning it just a little bit. Turning it. There's the first cut. Now for the second cut. There you go. Now your pieces are all cut. The next thing you want to do is get your PVC pipe up here. Measure approximately 1 inch from the end. And you want to start a cut right there. You're going to kind of go from side to side a little bit. What you're trying to do is just cut through the wall. Once you've cut through the wall and you've gone in about 1/4 of an inch, this groove will be deep enough so that your string won't pop out. You just want to go ahead, flip this around, make sure you're working straight and that your next groove will be consistent and in the same place. You want to go ahead and cut your second knock. And I'm just making sure I'm keeping an eye on the other side so that it's consistent. Okay, let's see. Looks good to me. All right, so now that that's done, now we're going to get to taping. Alright, you want to take your fiberglass rods and match up the centers so that you get this little bundle of long, a little shorter, and then the shortest piece. Sort of like a leaf spring, that's what we're going for. This is a very tiny bundle bow, and this will be the core of our bow. So you want to just sort of bundle them together, make sure they're all lined up to their centers. I'm going to take some duct tape, you want to go over the center, and you want to bind these together fairly tightly. A few good wraps are all you need because the four rods on their own are almost just the right size to fit in the pipe. Too much tape and it won't go in. And you start on one end. What we're doing is we're not only binding all of the pipes, the rods together so they don't make noise inside of the bow, we're also adding some cushion so that we don't do any damage to the interior of the bow itself. Or the interior of the pipe, I should say. So you just want to start from the end and just wrap the rods together like this. Just keep going. Right until you've reached just about the center point. Okay. Turn it around and do the other side. Really simple. Okay. Let's tape to work with. There we go. So now you have your bundle bow. And one of the cool things about this is if you flex it, see if I can do it, you can see it doesn't flex a lot in the center. It flexes mainly at the tips. What we're doing is kind of the opposite of flattening the bow. Instead of making it weaker as it goes towards the tips, we're making it stronger as it goes in toward the handle, which in the end gives you the same net result. All right. Now what you want to do is take your core and try to stick it into your bow, or into your pipe, I should say. It's not a bow yet. Perfect. Okay, so now you want to stick it in all the way, which means that it's going to have to go down about a foot. So you're going to need to use an arrow or a stick or what have you and drive this in about a foot. Without measuring, you can just kind of go back and forth and be like, okay, I've got quite a bit to go, so I'll drive it in about half that distance, measure that, flip it around, about a little half that distance, measure it, bring it around, measure it, bring it around, perfect. Now it's driven into the core. Now to finish up this bow, we're going to be making our string. You can use any type of string material you want. On a bow like this, this is 58 inches knock to knock. Since it's a long bow, I would say about a 55-inch string. But here we're just tying a simple overhand knot, making a loop. Here's one side. Loop that over your knock and see how it sits in there firmly and securely. Bring it up to the other side. You want to measure down about 3 inches, give or take. It's about 3 inches, and then tie a knot. Maybe a little less than 3 inches, because when you tie your knot, something's going to happen. You're going to end up with a slightly shorter string than you anticipated. About 3-4 inches. Now you take that, you go ahead and cut the end of our cord here. You don't need to use a knife. You could use the knock file or the tile saw if you wanted to. And go ahead. I'm stepping through the bow. I don't know if you can see. Bring the top in. Make sure the string sits in. Perfect. Here we go. So we're looking at about an 8-inch brace height. Let me push it down a little bit. Stretch the string. Okay, this is about a 6.5 to 7-inch brace height. Looks good. And here's our bow. As you can see, it's got that nice bend all throughout its length. You draw it. It's got a nice consistent tiller to it. Very smooth draw. Very easy to do. Now it still looks like a pipe, but its performance is a lot better than if it were just a pipe. So here it is. Let's shoot it a little bit. Alright, so I'm just going to shoot this out really quick for you guys, just so you get an idea of how it is. And then later I'm going to be finishing this bow up and making it look pretty, and then I'll shoot it again for you guys properly. But for now, alright, here we have the chrony. I'm going to be shooting a 400 grain arrow. I only have one, so I'm going to shoot it, run, grab it, shoot it again, run, grab it, shoot it again, until we get 3 readings. Now this is just so you can see what kind of efficiency we're talking about here. So here we go. And by the way, this is 10 grains per pound because this bow is 40 pounds. Whoops. And there you go, which is pretty efficient. So there it is. Woo! Alright, here we are at about 7 yards. Here we go. Alright, so here it is. It's not pretty yet anyway. I'll finish it up and I'll show you guys what it looks like all finished up. But here's the bow. As you can see, we got it done pretty quick. And while it does have a little bit of hand shock, it's not the best performer. All things considered, for what you put into it, time-wise, it's a solid performer. And it's really safe. It's got a lot of safety built in. If this does break, it's gonna probably break somewhere out here. The PVC pipe itself isn't under much stress right in here. It's mainly the fiberglass rods right in the center section. Here it is. And here's the other bow, just so you can see the degree of uniformity you can get. And drawn together, you get an 80-pound bow. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, here it is. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.